Right now, thousands of cars are legally allowed to be on UK roads even though they shouldn't be there. Faulty brakes, bald tires, steering that isn't safe, and the numbers are climbing fast. If you drive in the UK, or you're planning to, what you're about to hear could save you hundreds of pounds, keep points off your license, and in the worst case, save a life. Stick around, because 2026 is turning out to be one of the biggest years for UK driving law in over a decade, and most drivers have no idea what's coming. Let's start with the warning that's been making headlines. New figures obtained through a Freedom of Information request paint a troubling picture of just how many unsafe vehicles are actually being driven on British roads. Penalty points handed out for driving unroadworthy vehicles jumped by 52% in a single year, rising from around 8,500 endorsements to more than 13,000. That's not a small increase, that's a massive jump, and it has road safety officials genuinely worried. So what actually counts as unroadworthy? The biggest single cause was defective tires, with nearly 9,000 drivers stopped for that alone, an increase of over 40% year on year. Defective brakes weren't far behind, with cases climbing from under 200 to almost 1,200. Think about that for a second. Brakes are arguably the single most important safety system in your car, and the number of drivers caught with faulty ones went up more than six-fold in just 12 months. Officials aren't mincing words about it either. Senior police figures involved in national roads policing have described these numbers as shocking, warning that anyone driving with defective tires or brakes isn't just risking their own life, they're risking everyone else's on the road too. And here's the part that should really concern you. These figures only cover the people who actually got caught. With millions of MOT tests failing every single year in the UK, the real number of unsafe vehicles quietly driving around out there is almost certainly far higher than what's officially recorded. So why is this happening now, and why does it seem to be getting worse? A big part of the answer comes down to enforcement technology finally catching up with drivers. The DVSA, that's the Driver and Vehicle Standards Agency, has been massively expanding its use of automatic number plate recognition cameras to catch vehicles that shouldn't legally be on the road. These cameras are linked directly into government databases, meaning that the moment your number plate gets scanned, the system already knows whether your MOT has lapsed or your tax hasn't been paid. It's no longer a case of maybe getting caught. If your paperwork isn't in order, the odds are you will be caught, and probably sooner than you think. But it goes even deeper than roadside cameras. The DVSA has also been trialing a photo verification system designed to stop something known as ghost MOTs, where a vehicle is wrongly issued a pass certificate without ever actually being tested. Garages taking part in the trial now have to photograph the vehicle while it's physically in the bay and upload that image to a digital system, so there's visual proof the car was really there. If this becomes mandatory nationwide, it could make it far harder for dodgy garages to wave dangerous cars through, and far easier for honest testers to prove they're doing things properly. For everyday drivers, this is good news. It means the MOT certificate in your hand is far more likely to actually mean something. There's also a quieter change happening behind the scenes for anyone who works with heavier vehicles. The DVSA has started sending prohibition clearance notices by email instead of paper, confirming when a previously unroadworthy vehicle has been repaired and is safe to return to the road. Fleet operators are being urged to keep their contact details up to date, because a missed email now could mean a vehicle sitting off the road for longer than it needs to. Now let's move on to what might be the single most talked about change for ordinary drivers this year, and that's the government's new road safety strategy. This is the first major overhaul since 2019, and it's a direct response to the fact that more than 8,000 people have died on UK roads since that last strategy was published. The headline goal is ambitious, cutting the number of people killed or seriously injured on the roads by 65% by 2035. One of the biggest proposed changes is to drink driving limits. England and Wales are expected to lower the legal alcohol limit from 80 milligrams per 100 milliliters of blood down to 50, bringing the rules in line with Scotland and most of Europe. For learner and newly qualified drivers, the proposed limit is even stricter, dropping to around 20 milligrams, which is close to a zero-tolerance approach. If you've passed your test in the last couple of years, this is one to watch closely, because the margin for error is about to get a lot smaller. There's also serious talk about introducing alkolocks for people convicted of drink driving. These are devices fitted to a vehicle that stop the engine from starting unless the driver passes a breath test first. Several countries already use them, including the United States and Australia, and road safety campaigners have said they're proven internationally to save lives. If you're over 70, there's a change worth knowing about too. Right now, older drivers simply self-certify that their eyesight meets the legal standard when they renew their license every 3 years. No proof required. The new proposal would introduce mandatory eye tests for drivers in that age group, and given that around 6.3 million people over 70 currently hold a UK driving license, this could affect a huge number of people. Seatbelts are getting tougher enforcement too. Under the new proposals, not wearing a seatbelt could soon come with penalty points attached, not just a fine like it does now. And if you're driving with kids in the car, remember, you can be held responsible if they're not properly belted in. So this is one that affects parents just as much as it affects the person behind the wheel. For learner drivers specifically, there's a proposed change that could genuinely reshape how people learn to drive in this country. The government wants to introduce a minimum 6-month gap between passing your theory test and being allowed to sit your practical. The reasoning behind this comes from research showing that 1 in 5 new drivers crash within their first year on the road. The idea is to give learners more time behind the wheel with an instructor before they're let loose on their own, similar to systems already used in countries like Australia. On top of that, from spring this year, the way driving tests are booked has changed completely. Driving instructors can no longer book a test on behalf of their pupils. Learners now have to book independently themselves, and they're limited to just 2 changes on any single booking. Go beyond that and you'll need to cancel and start the process again, which also requires 10 full working days notice if you want your money back. This has been brought in specifically to stop bots and resellers from hoovering up test slots and selling them on at inflated prices, something that's been a nightmare for learners trying to get a fair shot at booking. The theory test itself is changing too. From early this year, the first aid section has been updated to include new questions on CPR and how to use a defibrillator, all part of a push to improve emergency response and boost survival rates after cardiac arrests on the roads. Now let's talk about the changes that are hitting electric vehicle owners hardest, because this is where a lot of people are feeling genuinely caught out. For years, EVs enjoyed complete exemption from road tax. That's now over. If you bought a new electric car from April last year onwards, you're no longer completely tax-free. From the vehicle's second year on the road, you'll be paying around £195 annually, the same standard rate as everyone else. Luxury EVs are getting hit too, through what's known as the expensive car supplement, sometimes just called the luxury car tax. The good news here, if you can call it that, is the threshold for electric vehicles is rising from £40,000 to £50,000, meaning fewer EV owners will actually be caught by this extra charge compared to petrol and diesel buyers. Company car drivers with EVs are also seeing changes. The benefit in kind rate for electric company cars is rising from 3% to 4%, part of a wider 1% increase across the board. It's not a huge jump, but if you're running an EV through your business, it's worth factoring into your numbers for the year ahead. London drivers, brace yourself because the congestion charge has already gone up from £15 to £18 a day, rising to 21 if you don't pay in time. And EVs are no longer exempt either. Electric cars now get a 25% discount rather than driving in for free, while electric vans and HGVs get 50% off if they're registered for automatic payment. The old cleaner vehicle discount scheme that gave EVs a completely free ride has been phased out entirely. There's also a bigger EV policy still being discussed that could affect owners even more directly, and that's a potential new road pricing scheme charging electric vehicle drivers a small amount per mile driven, designed to make up for the fuel duty revenue the government loses out on as more people switch away from petrol and diesel. Nothing is locked in yet, but it's clearly the direction things are heading. And it's not just EVs feeling the squeeze on emissions. From November this year, all new cars and vans sold in the UK will need to meet the Euro 7 emission standard, a stricter set of rules covering not just exhaust pollutants, but also particulate pollution from tires and brakes. This could mean higher prices for new vehicles and tougher restrictions in low emission zones. So if you're planning to buy new later this year, it's worth keeping an eye on how this rolls out. Put all of this together, and it's clear 2026 isn't just another year of small tweaks to UK driving law. It's a genuine turning point, covering everything from how safe the cars on our roads actually are, to how new drivers get trained, to how electric vehicles get taxed going forward. Whether you're driving a 15-year-old petrol hatchback or a brand new EV, there's something in here that affects you directly. The single most important thing you can do right now is simple. Check your MOT, check your tax, check your tires and your brakes, and don't assume everything's fine just because your car passed its last test. With ANPR cameras and stricter enforcement everywhere, the days of getting away with an unroadworthy car are quickly coming to an end. That's everything you need to know about the major changes hitting UK drivers this year. If you found this useful, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button because there's a lot more like this coming, and you don't want to miss the next update. Subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications so you never miss a video, and I'll see you in the next one.